Good morning. It is good to see each of you here this morning. We have some that have been gone for quite a while and are glad that you are back with us. The Lewis family, it's good to have you all back. Kimberly and Preston, it's good to have you guys with us this morning. Slowly but surely, we're getting back, right? Slowly but surely. All right, making sure all my electronics are good to go. I made more copies of handouts this morning than I did last week, and I still ran short. So, Brother Eric printed some off in between worship and class. So if you did not get one and would like to have one, I think he's bringing some in. Just give your hand a raise, and he'll bring one to you, or you can grab one after services. Make sure you grab 2 pages. It's a 2-page handout, so make sure you get both of them if you do pick one up. We'll take just a minute, let Eric get those handed out. Thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate it. I'm just going to have to start making more than what I'm accustomed to, which is good. I'm glad you guys are taking them. I hope they are being beneficial to you and that you are able to use them to look at further, refresh your minds, share with others, however you want to go about using them. This morning, we are going to look at being influential. Specifically, the context of Matthew 5, verses 13 through 16. Many Christians tend to go through life with their heads down, kind of sheltering and barricading themselves from what's going on around them, just putting their heads down and just, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, and that's it. When Paul said in Romans 12 and verse 2, and do not be conformed to this world, many take that to mean that we place ourselves in bubbles. That we're not going to conform to this world, so therefore we're not going to be around this world. Paul said that's impossible. For one thing, you cannot be in this world and yet do the work of a Christian. You have to be here. And so when he's saying do not be conformed to this world, we should not consider ourselves as islands, as our own individual person floating through life, trying to not touch anything next to us. We are called, in fact, to be stronger. To be stronger than the world around us and be an influence on it, not it be an influence on us. You see, it's not that we are supposed to withdraw all contact from the world, but it's that we are not allowed to allow ourselves to be influenced by it. How is our influence to be characterized? If we are to influence others, then how are we to characterize that influence? Jesus used very specific examples in Matthew 5, verses 13 through 16. Therefore, we must understand what they represent. We can go through and we can read it. We can say, we're the light of the world, we're the salt of the world, but what does it mean? We have to understand what this concept means in order for us to properly do it. If we are going to influence those around us, then we have to understand what Jesus means. And the first one he talks about, you are the salt of the earth. Now, many we can probably think of are salty in nature, right? I'm thinking specifically about Pete Ashley right now. He's not here, but I told him I was going to mention him today, so he better be watching. Salty in nature, you know, just an old tough guy, right? Oh, he's as soft as a teddy bear. Who am I kidding? That's not what Jesus is talking about when he says, you are the salt of the earth. The primary purpose of salt was that of a preservative, to help cure meat. Many times it's placed in a salt bath, or it's smothered in a salt pack in order to help prevent corruption. If Christians are not the salt God would have them be, then the world around them, like unsalted food, will what? It will spoil. You don't soak that meat in a salt bath because it's going to really enhance the flavor. You do it because it's going to prolong its life. It's going to keep it fresh. I want you to consider the example of Sodom and Gomorrah for a moment. Take your mind back to the scene. An angel has come to Abraham and has said, I'm letting you know that we are going to wipe out this area. And Abraham asked God specifically, he said, would you destroy the righteous with the wicked? Are you going to destroy all of them? Would you spare Sodom and Gomorrah for 50 righteous people? Abraham says. God said yes. Abraham says, okay, how about 45? How about 40? And he goes back and forth and he comes down to where he says, how about 10 righteous people? And God agreed. He said, if there are 10 righteous people that can be found, I will spare the cities from destruction. And we know the outcome, don't we? Genesis 19, beginning in verse 24 says, then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of heaven. So he overthrew those cities, all the plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. You see, there wasn't anybody righteous there to help preserve Sodom and Gomorrah. They had spoiled to the point that there was no bringing them back. When God's people are not being the salt, the communities around them will spoil. Not maybe, not have a higher likelihood. They will spoil. It is certain. One commentator said this: the most useless and contemptible person is a Christian who merely wears a name which he disgraces by his faithless and indifferent life. That stung when I read that. That stung. Because there have been times in my life when I have been guilty of being faithless and indifferent to what's going on around me. They're floating in their own sea of depravity. They made their bed. I'm over here on my little island of redemption, right? But the Christian who wears the name only is useless and contemptible. The Christian belongs, listen closely, belongs to the world as its preservative. This phrase, you are the salt of the earth, is what is considered a genitive of possession within the original language. Why is this important? Because it gives us skin in the game. Think about this. We often consider ourselves as being salt to the world. We are salt to the world. And we are doing it a big favor by trying to influence it. We are being salt to them. But we are of the world. Not in a moral sense. But we belong to the world for the purpose of preservation. We sing, rightly so, this world is not my home. This is not our final place. We have a greater place waiting for us. But yet we go through life content that other people have made this their final place. That they have staked everything on this chunk of dirt. But we're okay floating on our little island. Not overly concerned with trying to preserve that which is around us. But a warning that Jesus gives in being the salt is we must guard against losing our savor. This phrase, but if the salt loses its flavor, can be more accurately rendered if the salt is proven foolish. If the salt is proven foolish. Because pure salt is always going